Hello, YouTube. Apologize if I'm a little groggy, but we just set the clocks back 1 hour. So even though it's technically 10 o'clock, it's supposed to be 11 o'clock, but that doesn't make any sense. I should be actually more well rested. Well, anyway, besides that, today, what we're going to be working on is this Dell Precision T5600. So I was given to this by a local business. It didn't boot. It was basically broken. It was left out for scrap. So obviously I picked it up, and you can see it's missing an optical drive. Let's say I already figured out what was the issue. Turns out it was just some bad memory modules. I ended up replacing them. I also received the power supply, and it seems to be working all right now, but I have to test it out more. So obviously we have a Dell Precision T5600. I believe there are two 6-core Xeon E5s in here. These are Sandy Bridge LB EP based, which are 32 nanometer. There's 6 cores, I believe, at 2.9 gigahertz. There is 32 gigs of RAM and 4x8 sticks, 2 for each CPU. There are 4 memory slots with for each CPU. So I believe you could get quad channel on each. Usually you could get 8 normally, but this is like a little bit of a compact case. Let's see if I can turn this around a little bit so you can see nothing really in terms of expansion. We have just the RAID controller card, the PERC H310, and then there is nothing. So I have a Wi-Fi card, I have a SATA and NVMe PCIe adapter. Basically, I'm going to use, well, I'll show you about the drive configuration, but I'm going to use the SATA M.2 drive as the boot drive, and then also you have the future expandability to have an NVMe drive added in the PCIe bus. Then there's going to be a GPU that's going to go here temporarily, just for testing and for gaming purposes. I'm going to put the GTX 1060 card that I have that I've been using for all my videos. And then we're gonna have the Wi-Fi card down here with Bluetooth. Luckily, there's an internal USB header in there. And then on the bottom, I don't know, there's just a PCI slot. I'll just find something to fill this because I don't have a slot blank for it. What I'm gonna do right now, the case is a little dirty. It was outside a little bit, so I gotta also clean it up. No rain or anything, so let me go ahead, clean it up, and let me cut. Okay, so we got the system opened up. I cleaned it up on the outside. Looks a little bit better now. As you can see, here's the internal layout. Turns out there are 4 500 gig 10K drives in some sort of RAID configuration on this controller. I've wiped the drives already, so I didn't really bother to look at what was going on in them or how the configuration was, but I'm guessing they're probably hooked up in some sort of configuration, either RAID 10, not RAID 10, either RAID 5 or maybe, I don't know, maybe RAID 10, yeah, I guess. So you need at least 4 drives, I think. Uh, that's that. Got this little SATA splitter with another SATA out. So here are 2 CPUs. They are under these 2 heat sinks. One of the things I'm going to do is I am going to re-thermal paste them. So I got my big tube thermal paste. So we'll go ahead and take off this heat sink. Gonna slide this cage out. I bought the missing. I have some components here, but I bought the missing DVD drive on eBay, so I'll go ahead and put that back on there and cover that and hook it up to the SATA controller. So my plan is to put the dual, I'll do the parts layout in just a second. Plan is to put the dual M.2 SATA and M.2 PCIe card here, the GPU here temporary. I'm not going to use my GTX 1060 permanently in here. I'm just going to use it for testing. Obviously, I need that card for other things right now. Dang GPU shortage. The Wi-Fi card will go in this bottom slot, and then there's just that PCI slot. I have the power breakout cable for the video card. It plugs into this power supply right here. This is kind of like a server power supply almost, where you could, slide it in and out. If I could do that with one hand. But you can see it contact this board here, and then break out power. Interestingly enough, there's an onboard SAS controller on here. And I believe these ports are disabled when the PERC card is installed. I don't know why you wouldn't just use this over this. Maybe there's some cache on here or something. But what I'll do is I'll end up plugging the DVD drive into SATA 1, and then I'll plug in the SSD into SATA 0. I believe these are SATA 6 gigabits per second ports, but I'll need to double check. We have an internal USB header over there. My camera can focus. And that's about it. These are, obviously there's the 4 memory slots. They're under, some of these are under this baffle right here, so that's why I can't see them. But there's the 2 of the DIMMs, and I'll go ahead and I'll lay out all the components, and we'll see what we're going to install in here, and then I'll get working on taking off those heat sinks. Okay, here's a list of the parts, not a list, I guess a visual list of parts I'll be using for this project. So here's the same GeForce GTX 1060 that I've been using to test all my systems so far on the channel. Then this is a Silverstone dual PCIe This is a PCIe NVMe drive, and this is just a SATA M.2 drive, but it draws power from the PCIe bus, so then I could use that. I have a SATA SSD I'll put in there for a boot. NVMe drive will be used for later. Originally was going to use that for another project, but I guess I can reuse it here. Here's the mini PCIe, the PCIe X1, not mini PCIe, the PCIe X1 Wi-Fi adapter with the USB breakout for Bluetooth. I believe this is an Intel AC8260 chip in here, so not bad. A spare DVD drive, I'm not spare, but the replacement DVD drive we're going to install. And then there's the power baffle and the dual 6-pin connector. We only need to use one, but at least you have two for the future. So I'm going to go ahead and take out the heat sinks now and replace the thermal paste with that tube of thermal paste right there. So got the heat sinks off. Weirdly enough, I believe both of these CPUs were from the factory, but this one had different thermal compound from this one. And this thermal compound sucked, and this thermal compound was easy to clean off. So I don't really know what that was about. But you can see we got our Xeon E5 2667. So we have two of these, and then our 32 gigs of RAM. And I put in some of the expansion cards. So there's the 1060, put the power cables. There's the RAID card still, the Wi-Fi card under there, the Bluetooth breakout, and the SATA card, the M.2 SATA card, which I'm eventually going to plug into the SATA ports right here. I put in the optical drive, and I have to reinstall it right now. Let me go ahead and put some fresh thermal compound on both these CPUs and reinstall heatsinks. Got the whole system back together. You can see we have all our PCIe cards installed. I was actually able to find a 256 gig SATA M.2 drive in my parts bin, so I put that in the caddy. You can see the SATA cable. I had to use this red one because the connection on there was just not catching with the other cables I had, especially the ones with the latches, because there's technically nothing to latch to. Both CPU heatsinks are installed or reinstalled with new thermal compound. All the drives are still hooked up to the RAID card. I also ran another red SATA cable to the DVD drive, so now that's all cleaned up and fixed. So the last thing I gotta look for is just either a filler, bracket for here, or just like a filler PCI card to fill in this last slot. But besides that, it's ready to go. I am going to put it back together. I guess it's technically already back together, but I'm going to boot it up and then see if we get to the BIOS. Luckily, it looks like everything's working fine. I've already updated the BIOS on this to the latest one. You can see our SATA 0 and SATA 1 are both detected, DVD-ROM and 256 gig, I guess technically SSD. And here's our breakdown PCIe cards, network RAID, the obviously video card, empty because technically nothing's used the PCIe lanes, and the PCI slot. Unfortunately, something wrong with the CD drive I bought. Oh well, I guess it's just better. It just uses a blank almost. So, alright, I'm going to go ahead and install Windows on this and stress test it, and then I'll work on benching it, and that'll be part 2 of the video. So, stay tuned for that. Until next time, see you then.